is where we will begin. A few housekeeping things. This is our 5-day intensive. Today is day 1. Our start time will be 10, and that won't change over the next for today and tomorrow. We'll start at 10, and then on Saturday is going to be your independent work day, so you can record your videos. So what we'll do is I'll get on real quickly in the morning, go over the directions, what everybody needs to do. And then you'll have basically from about 11 o'clock on to record your videos. So that way you can actually get them turned in. I decided to build that into this particular cohort or this particular intensive because I know the videos are the biggest hurdle for folks. So my thought, my hope is if I give everybody time to do it during the training, that it will actually get done. As instead of just waiting and after we're done and then leaving everyone to do it on their own time, basically. So that's the plan as far as that's concerned. Have you recorded any of your videos so far, or have you not started yet?
I haven't.
Okay. That's kind of what I was thinking with it for everyone that went from self-paced to express, if you will, even though it's not necessarily express because there's still stuff to do. But I had a feeling that was still kind of a hurdle for folks, so it made sense to incorporate time into this where we could just get that done. So that's the plan for Saturday, and then Sunday will be lecture, and Monday will be lecture, and then we'll tie a bow on all of it, and we will be done. Do you have any questions for me so far?
Nope.
All right, so sounds good. I know we'll pick up a few more folks throughout the day. Just to give you a heads up, we'll pick up a few more folks throughout the day. I know folks are working because it is Thursday, and we'll have a little less on, a little more rather on Friday. So that's kind of how that is looking. All right, let's jump into this and get the camera going. And I assume you have something to take notes already?
Yeah.
Okay, great. I figured, but sometimes it pays to ask. All right, so this morning we are going to talk about yamas and niyamas. The yamas and niyamas are the ethical roots of yoga. I will say with the climate of the world right now, it is it creates for rather an interesting dynamic to try and wrap your mind around yoga principles while it feels like everything's a damn dumpster fire, or can feel like everything is a dumpster fire. As we talk about the ethical practices, kind of I like to refer to it as the blueprint of how you can live and exist in this yogic life. But then and you'll see this as we read through them, it's like, well, how do I do that when fill in the blank is happening, right? How do I keep myself grounded and stay connected to what's going on without having to dismiss or ignore my actual feelings surrounding a situation? But I think that there is a bit of misconception when it comes to these kind of ethical rules or practices. They're not asking you to ignore your humanity. If anything, they're calling you to pay more attention to it and be very truthful in how you actually feel and how you are actually processing the things that are going on. Because essentially, I tell my kids this all the time. You get to be mad, but you don't get to be mean. So you can feel frustration, you can feel anger, you can feel discontentment, you can feel anything you want to. You just don't want to turn those feelings into actions that harm others. So just bear that in mind as we or keep that in mind as we go through these. So before, yoga was primarily taught to us in the Western world from a place of postures where you go to a 60, 75, 90-minute yoga class. Everybody moves and breathes together, which is the hope for the class. And then you go home and kind of go about whatever you were doing prior to that. So before it was just that. It was the principles of the yamas and niyamas, which are the yogic ethical foundation of the practice that guide how we relate to ourselves and how we relate to others in community. They're not necessarily rules or controls, but I like to think of them as kind of the guardrails or the bumpers that would be put up if you were bowling or something. Remember, like bowling as a kid or whatever. It's the guardrails to keep the ball from going in the gutter. So they're the guardrails to keep you on this path and from going off track. So these teachings were well before yoga was colonized, well before it was a studio thing to do or globalized in the way that it is. And then I also will connect these to what I refer to as the Black Prana method, the way in which that I like to teach and talk about these things, which includes kind of a cultural reclamation, and to do my best to relate it to things that are intrinsic to Blackness or relate to Blackness or the Black experience in some way as through the commonalities that we can share or that we do share with living in the same place and space and in this crazy time. Because again, like I said before, it could be very hard to read some of these things and to and while trying to relate them to your regular life when again the world it's weird out there, to say the least. So all right, so the first is the yamas, their external ethics, how we relate to others. So ahimsa is the first one. It's nonviolence and no harm. So beyond physical harm, though, it includes emotional, social, and systemic harm. So we're not going to ignore, in this sense, we would not ignore that systemic racism is a thing, that misogyny isn't a thing, that homophobia isn't a thing. We're not going to pretend that these things don't exist. We're going to actually give voice to the fact that, hey, these systems are hurting people. These systems are causing damage to others. How can we be a voice or be a means of dismantling these systems so we can live in a society where everyone is treated like a human being, where everyone is treated with dignity and respect, and we're not espousing we're not perpetuating harm by being a part of systems that inadvertently and sometimes directly cause damage to others. So an example is something that we do at a studio at a teaching level is talk about inclusive cueing, because not every body type that shows up to the studio is the same. Yes, there is kind of an example or a picture of yoga that we've been given, especially in the West, that it is for this particular person and this particular body type, but that's not the reality of who walks into most general public yoga classes. So we do our level best here to talk about inclusive cueing and give students the means and the words and the language to be able to share and connect, or to share their practice and their teaching with a broader base of students, so folks who come into classes feel like they're included. Like you don't want, or I shouldn't say that, you want to make sure that you are doing your best to use words that include everybody in class and don't inadvertently ostracize. So you're not going to use a cue that directly relates to somebody's body or them personally. And though it may seem like a trite thing to have to say and a ridiculous thing to have to give as an example, but unfortunately these things happen. And these are the things that keep people from coming back to classes. And so our words and the language that we use go a long way in preventing harm, and also create space of awareness and provide a better container for students to connect to themselves in their own practice without being in their head and worrying about, oh my God, what did that person in front of the class just say? So what we want to consider when it comes to ahimsa in particular is, where am I And am I unintentionally causing harm in teaching or relationship? It's not where you intentionally cause harm, because then when you're intentionally being kind of spicy with somebody, you know what you're doing. You're fully aware of what is happening in that moment. It's the unintentional things. It's can refer to what can be referred to as quote unquote microaggressions, even though the microaggressions are not small by any level. They're just someone being unkind. Though that may not be their intention, it doesn't change their impact. So how can we how can we unpack our bias and figure out a way, or excuse me, begin to really dig into the things that we do when we're out in public in general society and connecting with people, and making sure that we're mindful of things that we say and how we treat others, even if we don't necessarily understand why they're offended, even if we don't necessarily understand why it should matter. Our understanding isn't required for us to be generally concerned about the well-being of another human being. So the next is Satya is truthfulness, speaking and living in truth, even when it disrupts comfort. So this is one of those where I like to talk about dishonest peace over, excuse me, people leverage, yes, dishonest peace by being quiet, trying to say that, oh, quiet is peaceful when it's actually not, over the discomfort of speaking out and speaking up about what's going on. Now, here's the other thing about speaking out and speaking up. It is important to do so. It is important to speak truth to the things that may disrupt the status quo. However, I think there's also space for making sure that we're showing up with solutions, and solutions that actually make sense on a grand scale, as opposed to solutions that are driven just mainly by emotion. We want to make sure we're being strategic in the solutions that we offer. Do they actually help people, or in our attempt to solve a problem, are we creating additional harm by not fully considering what people's needs are, or are we inadvertently stealing their power by thinking that we know better than they do about what they need and what they need, and what would serve them best. So from my perspective, what we do on our end is we talk a lot about telling the truth when it comes to racism and colonization and yoga in general, and the world at large in general. We do talk about that quite a bit, because those things, my experience as a Black woman informs the experience that I have when I'm out in public. That includes being in the yoga studio and being in class. It is not as though that environment is exempt from me bringing that experience with me. That does not mean that the experience is bad. It just means that it's different from someone else who comes from a different ethnic and cultural background. It all informs who we are and how we comport ourselves in life and in society. So we want to make sure that, once again, we are mindful of these things. So one of the things that I do think is really important is that we offer student honest guidance over the performative praise. Because in the case of a yoga class, we're not concerned with the aesthetic of the posture. We're concerned, is the student safe? Is the student safely moving through this particular posture or towards this particular posture? Not, does it look good or not? So regardless of what it looks like, we want to offer cues and language that gives them the opportunity to feel safe in their body and safe in their experience. So next we have Asteya, which is non-stealing, not taking what isn't freely given. So this particular thing does include cultural appropriation. So being mindful that you are giving honor and credit to where things come from when you are sharing something in class. There should be a working awareness within the studio that you're in, of where the roots of yoga come from, and not be afraid to share those things. When you talk history, when you talk philosophy, it's important to include that in the conversation. For example, if you're using chants or symbols or tradition, respectfully using these things, and again, giving homage and credit to where they come from, and not using it as a means of puns, or just being overall lax with language, especially when it comes to Sanskrit, or for particular pronunciations. Give yourself the gift of putting in the time, the energy, the effort to learn what you can, and why these things are important, and learn the proper pronunciation where you can. So next is brahmacharya. So I like to describe this as wise use of energy. So it does, from a traditional standpoint, refer to celibacy, but and through the modern lens, we'll think about it as energetic discipline. So where are you leaking energy in places? Are you giving your energetic self away to things that don't serve you, or that you don't have control of? Are you trying to control the world around you, or are you taking care of the things that you do have control of? This also is a place to bring up a really important conversation surrounding boundaries. So encouraging boundaries that protect peace and focus. Boundaries are how you comport yourself. They have nothing to do with the other person's behavior. Boundaries are for you. The rules that you set are for everybody else. Now, whether or not they follow them has nothing to do with you. It has everything to do with that person. That's between them and whomever or whatever they serve. And you can't determine if they follow your rules or not, right? However, you have control over your boundaries and how you're going to comport yourself if you feel as though your standard or your rule or values or something that you hold dear to yourself has been violated in some way, shape, or form. So in that, with using our energy wisely, boundaries allow us to protect our peace and maintain our focus so we're not leaking energy all over the place for things and to people that don't really serve the greatest version of ourselves. And I'm sure we've all kind of had the experience to where we have encountered a set of people or an experience where you just know in your bones that that this experience or this certain group does not bring out the best in you. That to me is your sign to make sure, your sign that you may need to change or make a change to the company that you are keeping. Excuse me. All right, let's keep on keeping on. All right, so next is a parigraha. We're talking about non-grasping and non-hoarding, letting go of materialism and attachment. Now, that does not mean that we're letting go of the idea that we need to have our basic life needs met. We do live in a capitalistic society, for better or for worse, and there are things that these things that we need as human beings in order to exist and live comfortably in the societal systems that we currently have. So it does not mean that we're foregoing those things, but we don't want to be so attached and holding on to them so tightly to where it is to our detriment. That is the difference here. So giving ourselves the opportunity and space to be truthful, as we just talked about a moment ago, about what we do and don't need, what is and isn't necessary, once our basic kind of life needs are full and accounted for. So the example here when it comes to teaching is teaching without attachment to perfection or performance. There will be an experience as a teacher that you will have along the way where you teach a class and you're like, oh my God, that was horrible. That was not good. That was not my best work. I didn't feel good about it. And your mind chatter is super, super loud. Don't allow that what you perceive to be as a poor experience adversely affect you from teaching going forward. And don't be so attached to this idea that it has to be perfect and it has to be right out of the gate every single time. And it's gotta look like this. It doesn't have to look like anything. We as yoga teachers are no different than any other teacher. We have our off days, we have our moments where things are just like, it doesn't feel like it's clicking, and that's okay. Give yourself the gift of grace in that moment to be able to go, all right, well, together a better class next time. And I'll go out and do it again in terms of giving what is your best effort in that particular moment. But if you are beating yourself up about it, you steal from your selves opportunity, you steal from your own opportunity to improve and grow, because then you're still stuck in, oh my gosh, the last class I taught was horrible and now I can't do this ever again. So you want to give yourself the opportunity to grow and to have grace. And this essentially is where you can give yourself the space and place to do that at. All right. For my folks that are on Zoom, hang on for just a second. All right, and we are back. So that is the yamas. Do you have any questions so far?
No.
Okay. So let's talk about the niyamas. And I will say this now, we may end up finishing early today because we're cooking right along since it's just you and I on this morning. All right, so let's talk about the niyamas. So these are in our internal ethics that govern the experience. So how we relate to ourselves. So the first is saucha, which is purity or cleanliness, not about, it has nothing to do with body shaming or about anything like that. It's more so about clarity in environment and energetic hygiene. So I'm sure you have probably encountered at some point what I like to refer to as energy vampires, where they absolutely suck the life out of you. There's always some trauma, some drama, something. And if we are being energetically hygienic, we're responsible for the folks that we keep within our company and in our space, and not allowing those people to impose on our boundaries. So they're not basically energetically bleeding us dry. so that purity and that cleanliness is, are you mindful of the company that you keep? And this includes relationships, and this includes maybe the work that you're doing or the work environment that you're in. There's nothing to say that you that job that you've had for 20 years that has now become toxic that you once loved. There's nothing that says that you can't change it, right? Are you being energetically responsible with? Are you being responsible with your energetic hygiene? If you say, if the answer is no, then maybe there's a change that needs to be made. For us, from our perspective of our environment, we keep it physically clean, the basics of having a clean space, doing our level best to make sure it is inclusive, and then cleansing the body or energetically with breath work, and even cleansing space by opening the windows. All of those things help in creating a more hygienic, energetic space. So the next in the niyamas is santosha, is contentment. You can be content with something even when you don't love it. So I know that might seem like a misnomer, but there's a peace and contentment in, all right, I know I'm in this trash ass situation. And I know that there are things that I need to do to change it. Okay. But what you're not doing is you're not lamenting that you're in the trash ass situation. It is more like, all right, I've made peace with where I'm at. I know the steps that I'm going to take to move forward from this situation. So here are those, here are the actions that I am going to take in order to make the next steps to change the experience that I'm currently having. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Good. Okay. So this is where we talk about the gratitude practice, but not gratitude practice from a space of like bullshit. It is not, I'm not grateful for like feeling as though the sky is falling. I'm not grateful for that. Like nobody necessarily feels that way. But you can find gratitude in the fact that, all right, here are the things that I do have. Here are the things that are working well for me. Celebrating your small wins, because those small wins can lead to a cascade of bigger wins. But if you cannot even find the small wins, it is very hard to get out of that, funk that you're in. So what are the things that you can say, all right, I do feel good about X, Y, and Z, even if it's not everything, right? Something is going to be better than zero. So that is where we can find that contentment, but it's not contentment from a sense of pretending that everything is better than it actually is. You could have a functioning awareness of, yeah, shit's rough right now, but this is where I'm working to improve, or this is where I'm working to grow, or, whatever the case may be. You can give yourself the opportunity to grow and move in a more productive direction. All right, so next is tapas, and that is our discipline, our inner fire. Are you showing up to your mat on a regular basis? Are you showing up on a mat based off of what your lineage or your practice calls you to do? If so, you're practicing your tapas. Are you a person who said that you were going to go to the gym on Monday and Monday rolls around and you are in your bed? Then that is not you practicing your tapas. It is the effort that it takes to create change. It is the effort that it takes to build that heat of transformation. It is the right action is what we refer to this as. So what does that right action look like? Is it putting out your clothes the night before with your shoes and you know everything that you're going to wear? Because then you're more likely to go on the run if you don't have to get up in the morning. It's still dark out. You're trying to fumble through your room to find what you're going to put on. Now you finally got it on. Now you got to finally get outside. But if you make the decision for your future self the night before, it likely will increase the opportunity for you to actually go out and do the thing that you said you were going to do. For Ashtanga yoga in particular, that is us getting on the mat on a regular basis and getting into our practice 6 days a week. Now, within that is the discipline of showing up to the mat. The room for grace is how long do we stay there? If, let's say, on a Monday, we're running a little bit late, but we still get up on the mat, but that leaves us with only 5 minutes of time to practice, that's still okay. That's still valid. That's still important. You got up and you did the thing. Versus, oh, I only got 5 minutes to practice. I'm not going to get up at all. Now we're not in our tapas at that point. All right, so the next, number 4, is Swadhyaya. That is our self-study. And in our self-study is knowing what life hacks, I like to refer to this as, that we need personally in order to bring us success. So for me, I know that time and time blindness is the bane of my existence. So what do I need to do to mitigate and to manage myself so as a functioning adult, I can be on time for things? That means that everything that I do whatever time it is. If it takes an hour to get there, I need to add 30 minutes to whatever that is, right? Instead of leaving exactly at the hour mark, because now I have no leeway for traffic. I have no leeway for I forgot something in the house, which I inevitably do. I have no leeway for whatever life may bring me. I only got that short 60 minutes to get to where I need to be. And now I'm forever pushing it. And then once I do get to the destination, I'm overwhelmed and out of breath and exhausted, and the thing hasn't even started yet. So the best thing that I can do for myself in my self study and knowing that time is something I struggle with, instead of beating myself up about time and how I manage it, just add 30 minutes. Now it solves a whole host of problems that come along with, can you manage time? Yes or no. Okay. But the work in that swadhyaya, the work in that self study is figuring that out, figuring out, okay, what steps do I need to take in order to offer myself this this win and this particular moment with something that I am aware that I struggle with. The biggest thing that you could do is admit that it's an issue. Go, yeah, I suck at this. Okay, so what now? Now from there, I know that I suck at it. Now from there, what can I do to fix it? How can I begin to make effective change? Because without the awareness of that, I'm struggling to do this particular thing. I will forever struggle to do it because now there's no space for the solution to come through because I'm still stuck in the, oh my gosh, I can't get this done. And I'm such a horrible person because I can't get anywhere on time. And all of the mental gymnastics that begins to play in the back of our mind. All of our inner critic things that begin to come up because something is not going well. So through the lens for us, we talk self-study in terms of from an ancestral perspective. How did our ancestry contribute to society, to where we are in the yoga space? I like to include and talk through those things as well. Then number 5 is Ishvara Pranidaha. And that is surrender to the divine, whatever it is that you believe in, whatever your jam is, God, Atman, Beyonce, Allah, it doesn't matter, Buddha, whatever your thing is. Surrendering to something that is larger than yourself or larger than the individual I. We're talking about the overall capital letter I, overall arching entity, if you will, deity, whatever you want to call it, the divine, and trusting that there's a higher purpose, and practicing humility and patience. Patience is like the number one thing here, because you don't know what somebody else's experience is. You don't know what baggage they're bringing to that particular experience. Now, even though you don't know what their baggage is, it doesn't mean that you don't have boundaries surrounding your own safety, your own peace. However, there is some awareness that humility and patience is humility, patience, and grace are extremely important. And then from a practice perspective, releasing the ego's nag when it comes to postures and when it comes to teaching. I am this type of teacher. I only do fill in the whatever. If you cannot do XYZ posture, then you're not a good teacher. That's not the case. We don't want to project that onto our students, and we also don't want to dump that onto ourselves. It's a really harsh way to experience teaching. That's a really harsh way to experience the world, and those things come out in your classes as well. So with that being said, surrender is defined by you as well. And it is on your timetable. No one can push you toward that. You have to arrive at that lesson in your own time, in your own feeling, in your own way that matters for you. Because without it being in your timing, it does not seem to hold. It's almost like the ego to me is similar to the addict in a sense, where the person does not work towards healthy, whatever healthy looks like for them, does not work towards that until they're fully ready. That portion of your ego does not get integrated, changed, morph, and or grow until you're fully ready. No one can do that for you. So our next thing to do is take some time to reflect on what we went over. I'm going to give you some time to journal. Your journal prompt is which yama or niyama feels most alive for you right now and why. I'll give you some time to write on that, and then you and I will discuss what you wrote down. So let's say about at this point I'll give you more than some time. We'll write until 11, and then we'll come back in 11 at 11, and we'll resume. It's 10:37 my time right now. So at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, we'll pick back up, and we'll talk through your thoughts surrounding yamas and niyamas. Okay.
Perfect.
All righty.
I'm back. Up there you are.
All right. Cool. So what reflections do you have based off of the question?
So I had